There we go. Good evening, everyone. So we've had a couple of panels, several panels about essentially the digital market in China and music rights and how that's working. We're going to switch it up a little bit now and have a look at the live scene in China, the live market, which is equally exciting, I would say. And today we have two central figures to that to discuss both the local working of the market and what that means from an international perspective. So if you'll join me with welcoming, firstly on stage, Scarlett Lee from both Zebra Festivals and China Media Capital Live. Thanks for joining us, Scarlett. So, Scarlett, we actually first met across a meeting table. I think we were trying to work about 2009. And around that time, you had started Zebra fairly recently, I think?
Yeah, I started Zebra in 2008.
2008. So at that time, we were talking to you about ringtones and digital content, and it was a media company you had. But Zebra then changed quite drastically. So what can you explain what that process was and how that happened?
Well, we started the company in 2008, and we went to the live music industry in 2009. We started the Zebra Music Festival in 2009, and then also for the subsequent years, we have also started working on large events like Electric Run, and we also started doing to do concerts.
So at that time, 2008, 2009, from a digital content perspective, China was an almost complete piracy market. Is that correct? What did you recognize in the live market at that time? What was it that made you sort of go so heavily into that? What was the changing point?
In 2009, I think the live market just in the beginning, I think it has changed dramatically over the last almost 10 years now, right? Now the live market, we're talking about ticketing. It's going to be, I think, by the end of next year, it's going to be around $2 billion a year, ticketing sales in total.
So it's $2 billion in just ticketing sales. We're not talking about sponsorship.
Yeah, just ticketing sales.
So actually, if you go all the way back to 2009, what would the sort of revenue mix look like of a festival? Let's say your first festival, the Zebra Festival in Chengdu, right?
Yeah. At the time, it was we will get our sponsorship from major brands like China Mobile and the local government. So that will compose around 70% of our revenue, and then the rest, 30%, is ticket sales. But today is different. Today, most of festivals will be booking their revenue around 50 to 60%, which is ticket sales.
So that's actually gone to being like a really healthy sort of balance. And back then there was another thing I think that I noticed when I first saw Zebra, is that you had the local players, let's say Modern Skies and Middies, for example, and it was very indie culture, kind of non-mainstream, but you decided again to do something quite different at that point.
Yes, it's quite a story. You know, we started the festival business in 2009 when we entered the business. I mean, music festivals in China at the time equal underground rock. But when we entered the market in 2009, we brought artists like SHE, Edison Chen, all these non-rock artists. Some of them are pop, some of them are hip-hop or controversial influencers. So we changed the landscape of the Chinese music festivals. We turned the festival, you know, the name festival into something like festival equal to lifestyle.
So did you find, I mean, did you survey your audience at the time? I mean, who was your typical audience person? And was this quite often, I guess, their first experience of being outdoors at a multi-stage festival? Who was actually typically coming to the early festival?
We started our first festival in Chengdu. So, you know, if for you people knows about Chengdu, it's a city very interesting city. It's a second-tier city of China, but the people are very outgoing and they like to spend money on entertainment. So that's why we picked the city. So at the time, I think would be 60% of the people came because of they are fans of certain artists we were booking. They are pop artists, so they have a lot more fans. And the second, maybe the 40% people, they came just, hang out, party, basically.
So, and what was the programming on that first festival?
The programming we had a few stages. So some of the stages focus on still rock, but the main stage is actually mostly pop artists at the time.
And so if you fast forward to today, what's the status of Zebra today? And also what's the plan going forward?
I think the landscape has changed tremendously. Now, at the time in 2009, there's only 3 festival brands, as you mentioned, MIDI, Strawberry, and Zebra. And now we have 200 festival brands, big and small, right? So the festival has now breaking to what we call the vertical genre. Like we have now EDM festivals. We have festival focus on lifestyles. We have a festival focus on folk music. So many different kind of festival now has evolved. And I think Zebra, in the beginning of this year, we have joined a bigger platform, which is CMC Holdings, which is also I'm now working for. We'll be focusing on bringing bigger IPs from overseas to China, festival IPs, and also events, large events, even including like esports. So Zebra now is moving into more like a major event platform.
So there's an interesting sort of dynamic you have to obviously make a festival that makes money, but also to educate your future audience and to make sure that you're bringing more and more young people into that experience. I mean, how do you do that? I mean, like what, are you optimistic about the future of young people getting the live music bug, and yeah, how do you reach them and how do you try and nurture that?
I'm very optimistic, as we were talking before, about the live music or live entertainment scene in China, because I think it's also happening in other markets. Live is like a community. It's like an event. People get together. So the change of, I think, retail industry, especially Taobao of China, has changed people's lives. People will do mostly of their grocery shopping online. People will be doing their normal shopping online. Women will be spending 1 hour per day on Taobao every day instead of going to shopping malls. So what the shopping mall is going to do without shopping? So restaurants, live houses, education, party places will be exhibitions, art houses. There will be the live entertainment for China, and I think that has great potential, tremendous potential in China.
Because I remember going to the early middies and strawberry festivals and these kind of things, and seeing these amazing scenes of young people, super cool, kind of wearing like the sort of band T-shirts and really being in that scene and thinking, wow, this is really positive. But then I would go to the clubs during the week and watching live bands during the week, and typically, obviously, those clubs are kind of just black holes, basically, with sticky floors and bad bathrooms, And I never really got the sense that those young people at the festivals were having a great time, and it never translated into ticket sales midweek for the club shows. How is that gonna? Because how are you seeing that change? That idea of young people saying, "Okay, well, I've been to a festival. I love the experience. I love live music. Well, I think I like live music. What next? What do I do during the week?" And I guess that's what you're just saying now, right, with the location-based sort of entertainment stuff.
Yeah, I think first of all, in 2009, the festival environment was not that great, But now, if you go to the festival in China, we have mobile toilets, we have very nice food and beverage areas, we have flea markets, everything. everything. Festival itself has upgraded, but in terms of live houses, I think it will change tremendously in China because of the real estate developers. The real estate developers now moving very fast into live houses, into experience centers, multifunctional spaces, rather than just building shopping malls. So I am pretty confident that we're going to have very, very good venues for smaller size, 700, 1,000 people, medium size, 2,000 to 5,000 people, and also arenas, 10,000, 20,000 people, and stadiums. So different size of space will be created in the next 5 years.
What kind of club shows have you done, or do you do? I mean, how low down, what kind of is the smallest club show you might do?
Oh, we did small events like 700 people capacity, yes.
And is that the same audience as you would get at the Zebra Festival?
Well, these people will go to the Zebra music festivals, but they definitely will go to the live houses. And also there's another trend in China is actually the EDM scene. Lots of people go clubbing, like huge scene. So I think EDM will be a huge future for China, and it travels very well, and also it's very visual.
On that EDM note, when you say a huge amount of people go clubbing, do you think that is a music first clubbing experience, or is it an experience first clubbing experience? I mean, are they really diehard EDM fans, or do they like going to the same place that other cool people are going to?
I think they like to go to the same place that other cool people go to, yeah. Instead of hardcore EDM fans, it's more like a party place.
Yeah, because this is another interesting thing that we've always sort of observed, is that you've got your pop stars up here, you've got your underground scene down here, and in the West, the connection between the two is actually quite strong. You can see a band playing from the back room of a pub, and you can watch their career go all the way to a stadium, and you don't really see that in Chinese music generally. Is that fair to say?
I think for the past 10 years, you don't really see that because we don't have the space available. As you said, they go to the hole in the wall, right? But I think that's going to change. So now we have actually very nice live houses who can be created, founded by an artist. Li Zhi, he did this live house called Ola in Nanjing, and it's becoming a very popular scene. So I think that similar kind of touring will happen. So artists will start touring in nightclubs, live houses, and then gradually move into bigger space, and then eventually to stadiums.
So where is Zebra going next? I mean, how many cities does Zebra, well, how many festivals do you do a year at this point, and in how many cities?
Well, we have now evolved from like 2 IP company. Now we have many IPs, because not only we create our own IP, but also we are working with IPs from overseas. We're going to actually work with a very, very big IP, EDM IP next year. I'm not going to mention it, but you will know in May next year. So with so many IPs that we're working with, so we are covering more than 20 cities next year. Yeah.
So almost you become like a white label at that point. You're a production, you're a solution kind of thing. And do you think when you said that there's 3 festivals a year 10 years ago to like 200 now, do you think the audience can sustain this? I mean, it's obviously some festivals are going to fall away, right? Have we reached the peak of the festival market, and now it's only the strongest that survives?
No, because we have first tier, second tier, third tier, fourth tier, and fifth tier cities coming up, and all the young people in this city, they all want to go to festivals. And as I mentioned before, recently we have involved in concerts like Jackie Chan's tour concert, like Jay Chou, May Day's concert. I mean, Jackie Chan alone, the last 1.5 years, he went to 200 cities, 200 arena shows. The size of it, it's unbelievable.
Over what period was that? 1 year?
1.5 years.
Wow, it's mind-blowing. Okay.
So when Justin Bieber does world tour, it's 150 shows or 250 shows.
That's incredible. So the way that we've broken this panel up is obviously Scarlett's talking about the local scene and how that works with typically local artists. But if we can bring Shine on stage now from AEG to talk more about, from an international perspective, about international artists coming to the market. So welcome, Shine.
Thank you. Hi, Sky. Nice to meet you here.
So just a quick introduction. What's your role at AEG?
Yes, I have been working with AEG for nearly 10 years. I'm now the tour director of AEG Presents. So we are doing their business not only in China, but across Asia.
And AEG as a company in China, how is it broken down? You've got some venues that you manage, some that you co-own, and then also the promotion division. Can you just explain roughly how AEG is structured?
Oh, yes. AEG, we majorly have like 3 parts of business. Of course, we're doing the venue management, in China, we are the co-owner of Mercedes-Benz Arena in Shanghai, together with NBA and Oriental Pool Group. And also the other part of the business is, of course, live music. So we have already brought a lot of superstars come to China and to Asia, which including Taylor Swift, Justin Bieber, Ed Sheeran, and many, many more. The other part of the business is about global partnerships. For example, we have a venue here, we have a show there, we have to find a sponsorship for the venues, like Mercedes-Benz Arena is called Mercedes-Benz Arena because it's presented by Mercedes-Benz. And also we have like 2 levels of suites, we need to sell to different companies. So it's just like a global partnership, live events, and also facility, those 3 parts.
So we talked earlier with Scarlett about basically the mix of revenues for a particular show or a festival, let's say. So Scarlett was saying it originally was 30% ticket sales, 70% sponsorship. Was that roughly it?
For the festivals.
For the festivals, yeah. So for your arena shows, if you go back, I forget, you said you've been at AEG for 10 years. 10 years, right, okay. So if you go back 10 years, what would be the mix of revenues for a typical major show?
To be honest, I think for the shows we are doing is all about arena shows mostly. Of course, we do club shows as well. I think very importantly that we don't, of course, sponsorship is very big part of the income of the whole, revenue of the show. But firstly, we have to make sure that the box office can cover all the show cost. At least we can break even, pending on the box office.
And now a show for you, how would you normally, firstly, measure how big you think the audience is for a show, and then secondly, how would you price the tickets to reach that audience or to maximize that audience?
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. So the ticket prices there's so many factors can influence on ticket prices. Of course, the first major part is by show cost, which including the artist fee as well. Of course, it's also influenced by like artist popularity, the production size, the venue, and many other factors as well. So when we start to price a show and to scale a show, normally we will do market research. This market research including like tour history study. For example, if an artist has come to China before, so of course we will take the artist's previous show's ticket prices as an example. If it's the first time the artist come to do the shows in China, of course we can refer to the similar level of international artist ticket prices. But in the end, we want to make sure that ticket prices are reasonable and accessible to all the fans. Yeah.
And how do you do that? Roughly breaking down, because there's some tickets which are obviously very high priced.
Yes.
And then you also, and this was actually a question for Scarlett as well earlier, was really that, obviously you need to make money from a show, but you've also got to think about your future audience 5 years from now and encourage them. And how does that thinking come into your ticket price? How do you make sure that you've got young people who might not have much money?
Like, every show, of course, we have talk ticket prices, which make sure that those fans who can afford to a higher ticket prices, so they can get closer to their artists they love, to see them doing live shows. And of course, we have to make sure that those fans, who are college students, university students, or who they just started their career, so that we have to make sure those tickets are available as well. Let me take a Taylor Swift show as an example. In 2015, we did 3 shows in Shanghai. It's all sold out in a few minutes. We have several, VIP packages. We have 3 VIP packages. We have the top price is like $42.80. It's about first 10 rows, and also with some VIP merchandise, tour merchandise. And also we have like 480 RMB per tickets available for the whole Upper Bowl. It's about 5,000 tickets available there. So we make sure that, like fans who can pay higher ticket prices, it's available there. Fans, who can afford a little bit cheaper prices, there's tickets available there.
So Scarlett just mentioned that Jackie Chung came and played 200 shows.
Yeah, and Mayday maybe did 100 shows.
Wow. Okay.
Or
so
arena shows.
So if theoretically, let's say Justin Bieber had the time and he wanted to do it, how many shows could he do in China in that same period? And why would there, if there's a difference, why would there be a difference?
It's very hard question. We successfully did Justin Bieber 3 mainland China shows. Back to 2013, if my memory is good, we did 1 sold-out show in Shanghai, 1 in Beijing, and Justin Bieber was the opening act for the venue we managed in Dalian Arena at that time. If you're counting on mainland China, of course, there are about 5 cities will be count on the map, like Beijing, Shanghai, of course, maybe Guangzhou, Shenzhen, and also Chengdu. Chengdu is a very great market. And there are about another 10 cities out there as well, like Dalian, Hangzhou, Nanjing. All these markets has good infrastructure to hold this type of shows. I think Bieber can do like maybe 10 shows, in China, or maybe more. But I think he has to come to offer in China to help promote himself in China.
Yeah. Yes, I just want to add to that. Jackie Chan is 60 years old. So he has been cultivating it for 40 years. And Mayday is 40 years old. And Bieber is 25.
Less than 25.
Yeah, so if he spends the next 10 years a lot of time in China, he could be in 100 cities.
Exactly.
Because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe 10 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, getting artists to actually play in China, you were kind of luring them away from other more valuable markets, and it, maybe you'd get artists that weren't on their particular tour, or they weren't. They were further along in their career, shall we say? They weren't on time, as I think you mentioned. So now you're getting artists that are actually on time, right? So they're on their global tour, they're highly in demand, and yet they're not just being lured to play in China. They're going, yeah, China's now important. Let's do Beijing, Shanghai. Do you think that just goes up like that, where you end up in 5 years' time? Not only are they happy to play, but they're now saying, I want to do 10 cities in China, and suddenly China is the priority market in this region.
Yeah, that's for sure. I do believe that the international live music in China can only getting better and better. Like I just mentioned, now the international tour artists not only come to China at the later of their career, but actually they come to China, as you said, on time, at the peak of their career. As AEG only, we did so many, hot artists in China, and more international agents, managers, they have already started their office in China, which means that they know China has great potential, and there's high demand here in China market. And also there's so many, companies, they are about to open their business in China. And also also, people in China are eager to see good content. They want to pay good money to see good content. That's, of course, including international tours in China. And, like a few years ago, if you play in China, probably like you can only go to Hong Kong, Shanghai, and or Beijing. But now there are so many good venues, infrastructures across China, which makes touring in China become possible. Because China is a big city. Yeah.
So just to add to that, recently we have CMC Capital has invested in CAA US. We are also a partner for CAA in China.
You've invested in CAA Global.
Yes, wow. We are together with TPG. We are one of the investors. There are 2 institutional investors. The reason for that is we really want to help them to communicate with the artists, to bring more artists to China, not only from arena shows, but start from live houses. If they come, they do their live house tour every year, gradually they can break the arena shows.
And I guess for that kind of development to happen, as you say, the venues, the infrastructure has to get better, but also people like you guys have to open up new markets, right? So you have to say, you mentioned Hangzhou and Nanjing and these places that normally wouldn't be on a, let's say, normally even not on a festival circuit. I mean, there's Westlake in Hangzhou and stuff. But how much time do you spend trying to open up new markets? And do you occasionally have to lose money on those new markets knowing that it's a 5-year thing? I mean, how much time do you spend thinking about that?
Well, for every festival we go into a market, we lose money for 3 years to build market base.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yes, musical festivals in China, it's just like developing.
Yes.
And, we have to train the market a lot. Like AEG, we always trying to open new markets for sure. For example, if I can talk about Asia, for example, Ed Sheeran show, which is about to happen, in later October, and we will tour like 12 markets and 15 shows. There are 3 shows which is double, and it will be the first time we bring artists to India. To Dubai, we want to expand our business there because there will be a demand of the local fans there. Also, we want to go to Chengdu previously, but unfortunately there is not very, stable or suitable venue for us to hold our, to hold the level of artists we have brought to China. But we heard that there's a new venue called Magic Cube, which is about to open at the end of this year. And also we have already started in communication with top-tier artists, and we want to bring them to Chengdu in 2018, which is the next year.
And how about production in these places? Obviously you've got different kind of requirements, really, as you were saying. I mean, with AEG, the production would quite often come in with the touring party. I mean, how do you have any issues with, let's say, a new market where there's very high spec kind of production requirements, and are you always able to support that? It's really a question of the venue, is it? Can they support that level of production?
Yeah. So to be honest, I don't think now China has an issue with the productions because normally the international tours come to China, they don't bring like for production. It requires the local promoter like AEG. We provide the production equipment according to their technical rider.
And has that always been easy? Because production, as far as I can tell from being at shows and festivals, production is quite a big deal. In the past it has. I think it's got a lot better. But when you guys were starting out 10 years ago, it must have been a difficult thing at that time.
Yeah, because, as I mentioned, some venues, they just cannot hold the scale of productions we want to bring to China. I believe everyone wants to see like a full scale of shows. No one wants to see, scale down shows, that's for sure. And then now the venues in China, we have the mother grid on the roof, we can rigging stuff from there. And also there's more and more production companies, they have already purchased, most up-to-date equipment here in China. Even like Scarlett mentioned, Jackie Chan, the production was amazing. I went to see the show. Oh my gosh, I was so impressed how big the production is. All the stage is movable, LED screens everywhere. The lighting is beautiful. The stage it's just wonderful. So there's plenty of equipment there. So which makes international tours become possible.
How did you do that production?
I think in terms of production, we don't have any issues with like lightings, trusts, or the materials that is available in China. But I think what we really lack of in this industry is creative people. People design an interesting stage, concept designers, people actually can curate great shows. The creation relate to our industry, the live music, the festivals that we don't have. And I really want more people from overseas with great experience to come to China to work with us.
And I guess this might be like a broader question about creativity in general in China. Is this often criticized that China's not naturally a creative, or not at the moment anyway, a naturally creative place, but I think that's going to be proven wrong, right, over time. Or do you disagree with that? But let's just say, like within the music space, do you feel there's a lot of good talent coming through and a lot of good creative energy generally around, let's say, a lifestyle event like you're doing, like Zebra? Are these real hubs of creativity, do you think?
I think the issue for China is we do have young people coming up. They are very creative, but lack of experience, because the industry is really 30 years old comparing to 100 years old in the US. And also lack of experience, and also we need to have a variety of people. Like if the people in the country is much more homogeneous, then it really does not incubate creativity.
But I think
so I really encourage more people to come to China to work in our industry.
I mean, just on that point still, I mean, I remember going to little dark rooms to watch bands, like let's say D22 in Beijing, and you watch a band like Hedgehog or someone who's just starting out, learning about the stagecraft and their performance generally, and then suddenly you've got them going onto the main stage of a festival, and you can see the band just kind of mature, like within the space of a 1 hour set, and in a way, festivals were the stage that was necessary to open up a lot of that creativity. Do you find that with Zebra, and how much do you look to book local talent and give them the same stage as the major pop artists?
We actually gave a lot of opportunity to the local talents. For example, the ones in Chengdu, we actually now there are a few Chengdu bands are very famous now, Mosaic, all those bands, Masaike. It's all because our festivals. So the festival in Chengdu, then we did a festival in Hangzhou, in Shanghai. We used a lot of local bands. And I think it's a great opportunity for these bands to have opportunity to perform in a large stage facing 10,000 or 20,000 people. These experiences are very important for them to become more mature in terms of performance.
And Shine, so I should say, actually, we've got 7 minutes left. If anyone has any questions, it's actually very difficult to see. We're going to carry on talking, but if anyone wants to ask a question, feel free to jump in. Shine, really that same question, actually. When you're bringing in major international artists, how much time or thought do you give to support acts, or in some way getting those international artists to interact with the local music scene or the local music creative environment?
Yeah, of course. When we did I forgot which artist, but we do when we did Azure concert, quite a few years ago. Wang Lihong, as a Chinese artist, also he was a guest performer of the show, and also when we are doing more and more international tour, international tours, when they're performing in America or in Europe, sometimes they will have an opening act. Like Maroon 5 used to be an opening act for some big band. There's so many people starting their career to be opening act. Like Taylor Swift used to be opening act as well. So I think, when we do the international tours in China, I hope that we can cooperate, with some very talented local Chinese artists. They can be all kinds of special artists or like a guest artist or opening act of the show. And I agree with Sky that they need to do more and more practice so they can hold their single solo shows in the future.
And how, you're obviously doing stadium shows, but how kind of small are some of the smallest venue you might be promoting in?
Oh yeah, like as I just mentioned, we are the co-owner of Mercedes-Benz Arena, and we used to run Wukesong Arena in Beijing as well. There are like small, like scaled-down venues under those two main arenas. Like we have Shanghai, we have mixing room. The capacity is about 800. We want to fill content to those venues as well. So we did like Slash, Simple Plan, Our Cities. Of course, Our Cities, if we can bring them to mainland China, it's not only playing in Shanghai. We did 3 cities, 4 shows across China. We started from Beijing, and we played at the smaller venue under Wukesong Arena. It's about 1,500, capacity. And then we did 2 sold-out shows in Shanghai. Then we finished our show in Guangzhou. Yeah.
So just sort of starting to wrap up a little bit. So you've now got a really interesting role, Scarlett, where you've obviously created Zebra Festival, and you've now partnered with China Media Capital, and your job with them is basically to make bets on the future of some of these things. So what are you looking at across the live space, and what are you making bets on?
I think we are generally making bets on music entirely, upstream and downstream. Obviously, we are very interested and very optimistic about the live part of the music business, and because we are kind of planning the entire distribution network for the live business, we will be interested to invest in companies that has good artists as well, which is more upstream. We want to make sure there will be a continuous pipeline of artists performing in the future.
And how do you see live interacting with the digital space, live concert streaming, live streaming generally?
I mean, it's very, as you know, I previously has founded a company called R2G, which is a publishing company which now sold to TME. So I'm a tiny shareholder at TME. And I think the digital music is closely related to live music, because once the person become popular in terms of live, the music will be popular. Once the music become much more being listened, the live will be more fans to buy tickets to go to the live shows. So they actually work together with each other. And also today, just one more thing, today with all the major people's time now is being, I would say, taking over by WeChat, Taobao, all the Chinese internet companies. It's very difficult to acquire people's time. So live performance become a very good, we call it a very good opportunity to get people subscribe to certain service, because the acquisition of new users online become very high cost, but the acquisition of new users offline is becoming cheaper. So there's a subtle dynamic between the two. Yeah.
Hi Scarlett, hi Shine. I'm Clarence from Bandwagon. We are a digital media publication focused on Southeast Asia. So I'd like to ask, how interested are you in bringing your festivals outside of China? Because I know you both do a lot there. Like over the years, we've seen like Laneway Festival, getting out of Australia to Singapore. Ultra, has done quite a lot in Asia as well. We've Road to Ultra and Ultra Music Festival. So China market is really big, as we all know. How interested are you in Southeast Asia, and any immediate plans in the horizon?
For the festival part, we are kind of planning a festival in LA, but not yet Southeast Asia. But I think that could be consideration in the coming years. As you know, the Korean music, live music now is not available in China. So I think Southeast Asia will be a good opportunity for us to feature like Asian music festivals, Chinese, Koreans, Japanese, together to be at one Asian music festival. I think that direction I will be interested to consider.
You know, as like AEG presents, you know, we have already started to tour in Southeast Asia. For example, you know, Ed Sheeran, which is coming, you know, we have shows in Bangkok, we have shows in Jakarta, we have shows in Kuala Lumpur, and you know, we have already doing so many shows, you know, across Southeast Asia, and of course, Southeast Asia is a key, essential part of our Asia tour. Yeah, we will go there often. Yeah.
Any other questions out there? I cannot see at all. Actually, so we're going to wrap up, but I just wanted to come back to that live streaming thing, and for both of you, in fact, how much thought is there for that area now? They're saying that, you know, yes, you've got the physical kind of event, but there's a lot of the digital platforms are putting a huge amount of time and effort into trying to monetize that. And do you sort of really work closely with them? Have you really found the successful model yet? Because it still feels quite early, but there's a lot of hype about it, I guess.
There's two parts of that question. One is the audio streaming of the song. The second part is actually the live streaming of our events. So the live streaming of our events in China, we have been recently, the recent years, we worked very close with Tencent Video. So the video team has a music team that does a live streaming of the festivals, and that's working out actually quite well. And I think in terms of audio, live streaming of the songs, I think the touring really helps increase the usage of live streaming of the songs.
Yeah, like Scarlett, AEG have been working with Tencent very closely as well, because Tencent did do the live streaming of our shows like Adam Lambert and also smaller club shows, which is our city. You know, I think, you know, of course, for example, if we hold a shows in China, or maybe the schedule conflicts, we can only do one city or two cities. You know, it's always about 10,000 tickets or 20,000 tickets available to the whole market, but probably you have like 100,000, 200,000 tickets who want to see the show. So live streaming makes this possible. So, you know, but of course, you know, international artists, they hold the right of live streaming. So we have to work together with them, convince them, you know, doing live streaming more and more. I think, yeah, they understand much better now, and they are willing to try out live streamings.
Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Can you join me in thanking Scarlett and Shine, please, for a super interesting panel?
Thank you.